היא הייתה חזקה מהחורף, היא הייתה חזקה מסופה, לצמוח מכלום שהיה לה, זה סוד הכוח שלה.
כוחותינו שבו לפעול בכל רחבי רצועת עזה בעוצמה רבה.
בגב זקוף ובראש מורם, תתחזקו, תאמינו, עם ישראל חי.
מתוך עולמות שבורים היא צומחת, היא צומחת, לילות שלמים היא רוקמת כל מה שיקרה לה, היא צומחת. שמש, אביהו שמש עם שמיים מעוננים, צומחת, עוצמת את עיניי, אבל השמש היא בפנים, צומחת. אבל אהובה כמו המים, נגע בחופים וחזר, עכשיו אהבה היא יודעת, כאב שאיננו נגמר. מתוך עולמות שבורים היא צומחת, היא צומחת, אור שמבשרת השכמה והזריחה, רק לראות אותה, יותר מזה איני צריכה.
גיליתי עם עוצמתי וחזק, שעוטף ומלווה אותן.
אני חלק ממשהו עצום. מצאתי עם מגויס.
אם נדע לראות אחד את השני ולעבוד ביחד, השמיים הם הגבול.
מאז שידידיה נהרג, אני מבינה שביום יום צריך פיזית להדליק את האור. לא רק לחכות לגילוי שלו.
עשיתי את מה שרבים ורבות מאיתנו עשו, ואם יידרש, אבחר כך גם בעתיד.
אני מתפללת שאתה והקדוש ברוך הוא תעזרו לעם שלנו לנצח במלחמה הקשה הזאת, שנקום ונצליח לחיות את החיים באמת.
תאהבו אחד את השני הכי הרבה שאפשר. רק תאהבו.
Well, shalom friends, and welcome to the 86th episode of the Christian Friends of EMUNAH briefing and time together. So glad you are with us. It's wonderful to see so many friendly faces once again, and we have another packed show for you, full of a lot of well, a great guest, a dear friend, and a story that has shaped the course of Jerusalem and arguably the course of the whole of Israel, and beyond that, even the Middle East. And an amazing story that we're going to be covering in just a few moments. And that video, you are all aware, we normally start with the Hatikva. That is the video for the 90th anniversary of EMUNAH. Yes, EMUNAH has been around 90 years, looking after the most vulnerable and needy across Israel. And of course, those ladies are just a sprinkling of some amazing stories of courage, clarity, character that have helped these the children of EMUNAH homes and daycare centers to not only simply survive, but to thrive and to flourish. And for that, we are very grateful. It's wonderful to see all that is going on and the sheer scope of the work that EMUNAH does across the nation of Israel is very profound. Well, in global affairs, as always, it never stops, does it? And just yesterday, we saw an attempted beheading in Belfast, which is simply horrific. Thankfully, the guy is still alive, and but has suffered injuries to his back, to his eyes, and when will the chickens that are coming home to roost be actually realized in the European nations. Israel is continuing to fight for the freedom of the West, and the West is sleepwalking and doesn't believe or see that as the reality. We had a Hezbollah terrorist attempted to cross into Israeli territory and up in the north, and was thankfully stopped by that. Details are under review. I also saw a video just this morning of a group of Palestinians trying to get into Israel, and they wore kippahs and were using costumes to get in, essentially trying to pretend that they were Israelis coming from the West Bank, and that in and of itself obviously is happening in increasing measure. One must ask, why are they wanting to get across the border and what's going on from where they're coming from? But that in and of itself, is it to carry out terrorist attacks, or is it actually because they want to get away from what's going on there? The price of crude oil has dropped to $91. We obviously saw this helicopter crash that yesterday, the American helicopter crash, and the recovery of that. And at the same time, we're seeing on a global basis the attempts of directing the narrative of how Iran is portraying their victory. And again, it's theological. We have to understand this. For a victory for Iran is simply to survive. That is the theology that we are dealing with the IRGC. They're not, they don't measure things based on conventional victory. They base it merely on to survive is to win. And I did an interview with Rabbi Pesach Waliki a couple of weeks ago, and he said something very interesting to me that was very, very profound that I wasn't aware of, that whenever a soldier in Israel loses their life in battle, at their funeral they read Psalm 83, the Psalm for war. And they don't do it at a normal funeral, but at a funeral for a soldier. The Psalm 83, the Psalm of War, is read for the soldiers in their entirety, which I thought was very, very profound. And you can go back and study that. It's actually the last verse in that passage says that they may know that his name is high above all the others in the world. So we're seeing that happen. The Lebanese Ministry of Health have just proclaimed that 3,666 have been killed and 11,321 wounded in Lebanon since the beginning of the current round of fighting. And in other news that happened this weekend, and this is really quite, again, just paints the picture of what's going on in Europe. The banned massive attack allowed Arab Barghouti, the son of the murderer Marwan Barghouti, who's currently serving 5 life sentences in an Israeli prison for the terrorism he's done. Last Sunday in Berlin, massive attack allowed him to take the stage during their performance and campaign for his father's release. Arab Barghouti compared his father, who is serving 5 life sentences plus 40 years for the murder of Israelis, to Nelson Mandela, and linked his release to the liberation of Palestine. Arab received applause and enthusiastic cheers from the audience, who eagerly absorbed his words. This is what the normalization of the murder of Israelis in Europe looks like. A terrorist and a murderer of Israelis is made to appear as Nelson Mandela. And so we just need to be aware of what's going on. I don't know, did we cover Eurovision last time we were together, or was that in the gap in between the two? Well, Eurovision was another one that was amazing, where the votes of the public overwhelmingly raised Israel into second position once again, and the boycotts of the 5 nations seeking to undermine it actually resulted in obviously Israel being expressed as loved by the common person through the voting system, even if the main powers that be didn't want to recognize them in that, and the 5 nations obviously that boycotted. So a lot's going on, and I want to make sure we have enough time for our guest. So as always, we're going to read a passage of scripture. Zechariah 8 verse 1 through 7 is our passage today. If you've got your Bible, Zechariah 8 verses 1 through 7. The word of the Lord Almighty came to me. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I am very jealous for Zion. I am burning with jealousy for her. This is what the Lord says. I will return to Zion and dwell in Jerusalem. Then Jerusalem will be called the faithful city, And the mountain of the Lord Almighty will be called the Holy Mountain. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Once again, men and women of ripe old age will sit in the streets of Jerusalem, each of them with cane in hand because of their age. The city streets will be filled with boys and girls playing there. And Melissa and I'm sure many of you have been eyewitnesses to this. This is what the Lord Almighty says. It may seem marvelous to the remnant of this people at that time, but will it seem marvelous to me, declares the Lord Almighty. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will save my people from the countries of the east and the west. I will bring them back to live in Jerusalem. They will be my people, and I will be faithful and righteous to them as their God. And this is just one of many scriptures that puts in perspective and helps us to understand that the Aliyah, the return of the Jewish people from the four corners of the earth, is not fulfilled in the return from Babylon, which was one direction, which is what the replacement theologians want you to believe. It's not the case. They are returning from the north, south, east, and west, and there are multiple places in the Bible that talk about that return and what a remarkable privilege it is to be living in the day when that return is happening.
Before we show you a short video clip and then welcome our guest, Alon Wald, onto the show, I just wanted to remind you that we are running this campaign that Stephen and I are so excited about, this Sponsor a Child program, Guardian Angels. And it's possible to be paired with a specific child that lives in one of the EMUNAH residential homes, be able to help look after them, help pay for the amazing care that EMUNAH gives them. It's very expensive to provide the education and the food and the therapies, everything that's needed for these children to heal and have hope for the future. And so it's something that Stephen and I have done. We were able to be paired with a girl the same age as our daughter, and especially with Father's Day coming up, it's a really meaningful time to mirror God's heart for the fatherless and to provide the care and support that they need. Stephen's going to make sure the link to that gets in the chat. I think he just put it there.
I was just going to add, let's overwhelm Ruth with how many she has to work through. If everybody on this call took up one child, she'd be busy for the next 24 hours helping you be connected with the child that you are placed with. So
absolutely, yeah, it works out to about $40 per month to join the sponsorship program, and if for ease, there's the opportunity to just do it in 1 or 2 payments each year. But if you need to do it on a monthly basis, you can definitely reach out to Ruth about that. And if it's something that's too much for you, maybe consider doing it with your Bible study group or your church, or getting together with a friend and making it possible for these children to have the care and the therapy that EMUNAH wants to provide for them. So let's partner. And as Stephen says, let's get all these children sponsored. Let's overwhelm Ruth with the requests for this, for these partnerships. And
actually, I see quite a few people. Thank you both, Stephen and Melissa, about that. Quite a few people on this call have stepped up to the plate, and they are guardian angels. We are truly blessed. Many of you have really already, taken on this, I would say blessing, because you're taking care of kids here that make such a difference. And now we're really starting to see the fruits come to fruition. So thank you, everybody.
Yes, so sweet. I know many of you are learning Hebrew as well, and it was fun to get a letter in Hebrew from the child that we're sponsoring. They put it into English too, and we wrote back with some Hebrew and some English to her. And so if you're learning Hebrew, it's a great opportunity to practice that as well. But I know as Stephen said, we want to have plenty of time to hear Alon's really inspiring, moving story. But first, we wanted to just show you a short clip of a film that actually Alon Wald was involved with. He was one of the interviewees in this film. CBN made a docudrama called In Our Hands, The Battle for Jerusalem. And we're going to put a link to watch the full film later in the chat. You'll definitely want to stay on live here and hear from Alon now. But this is just the trailer. It's just under 2 minutes, and then I will introduce our special guest to you.
The time has come to begin a battle of annihilation.
Our goal is clear: to wipe Israel off the map.
We shall destroy Israel and its inhabitants.
I just started this job 10 months ago. Now you want me to plan an entire war in 2 days?
Yes.
Take the old city and be done with it.
No more bloodshed.
We should go in now. And what is your great strategy for that?
To be right here, Mota, and not to go in. History will never forgive you.
Jerusalem has never been conquered from the east. Not since King David's time.
So it will be the second time. And the last one.
Enter the old city immediately and capture it.
55th Paratrooper Brigade, move toward the Lion's Gate. It was a merciless battle, but you didn't complain. For you, it was enough to drive forward and to conquer. Jerusalem is yours, forever.
Really powerful film. Definitely encourage you to watch the whole thing of that. Stephen's going to put the link to that in the chat for you. We had the pleasure of meeting Alon Wald when we were at the NRB in Nashville back in February, and we're so pleased that he agreed to join us today. Alon is the head of operations at Ammunition Hill, the National Heritage Center. He is a son of Captain Rami Wald, of blessed memory, who fought in the 55th Paratroopers Brigade in Jerusalem during the Six-Day War and was killed in action while leading the paratroopers into Ammunition Hill. Alon served his country as an officer in several elite IDF units, the Israeli Secret Service, and oversaw security operations in Israeli embassies and aviation services around the world. He's now married to Iris and has 3 amazing daughters. Representing the second generation, the torchbearers, Alon dedicates his life to keeping the legacy of the liberators of Jerusalem, and among them, the memory of his father, alive. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alon.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys, I see this remarkable gathering, and I had no other choice all through my life. You have a choice. You have a choice to use your resources and time for something else, and you chose to do something so meaningful. So it will never be taken for granted as far as I'm concerned, and I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to share part of the legacy of Israel. The last 59 years of my life is the last 59 years of Ammunition Hill, a battlefield that stands for the reunification of Jerusalem, a battlefield that stays intact exactly as it was when the paratroopers of the IDF started their part in the Six-Day War in Jerusalem. The rest is history. But in order to understand to the full extent what I'm going to share with you with the limited time I have now, I want you to use your imagination and trying to shrink me from the size of a 59-year-old man that will talk to you about Jerusalem and Temple Mount and Western Wall and war and sacrifice and bravery and leadership and courage. All these big words that I'm using on a daily basis at Ammunition Hill meant nothing to me when I started my journey as a clueless child. At the trenches, maze of trenches of Ammunition Hill, running, playing hide and seek. It was nothing more, nothing less than my childhood playground. And the first time I realized that I have one heck of a burden on my shoulders was when I arrived to elementary school, realizing I'm the only kid out of 3 classes without a father. Then it hit me for the first time that I'm different, that there's something I need to inquire. Because Jerusalem, I just came down to my hometown from Jerusalem. You guys, it's there. It's still there. It's amazing. It's powerful. It's a source of inspiration to us all. And it's going to be there for many more years. But it took my father from me. And the context of the story of a peace-loving nation forced me to ask questions, tough questions, because this is not Sparta, by no means. We do not breed our youngsters to become martyrs. And being the only kid in class without a father made me envy each and every one of my classmates. Whenever I saw another daddy come to brag about his amazing career, and I wanted answers. I really wanted to know that my father had no other choice, choosing a nation over me and my mother, because we are another family. My father was a carpenter. He was 32 years of age. He was the love of the life of my mother and a proud father to a 10-month baby when he had to make this ultimate choice that you saw at the beginning of this meeting. So many families all through the ages had to make this, so many fathers, husbands. Now women go to combat units in Israel, have to make this ultimate choice. And the naive, egoistic questions I'd posed all through my life became the answers. I'm so willingly sharing to anybody that wants to hear that, because this is the truth. We hate war. We wish for peace and life, and seeing the guys of CBN coming to Ammunition Hill, reconquering for 3 nights the place. I stood from the side realizing what really happened there, because the explosions were something that shook all the north side of Jerusalem. CBN did it most professionally. So on behalf of my father and his friends, I'm trying to interpret the story in a way that will mean to you guys, so many thousands of miles from Jerusalem, who we are and what do we stand for. And to sum up, 4 hours lesson of the circumstances that led to the 6-day war, from the guts of my mother, when at the age of 8 I asked her, "Mommy, who took Abba? Who took father from us? Because I'm the only kid in class without a father." And she told me. She shrunk the story to something that will make sense to you guys and to me as an 8-year-old child. And she told me 3 weeks before the 6-day war started, a coalition of the Arab nations was formed by President Nasser, the president of the Egyptian nation, making a vow, a promise, all over the available media. Then it was only black and white television and radio. Today there are so many other options, but Israelis heard it from the spokespersons of the Arab coalition. Jews, we are going to storm into Palestine and we are going to throw you to the sea. We're going to finish whatever Hitler could not have achieved. You have limited time, flee from Palestine, or else you'll be butchered. And my mother said to the little me, we were terrified. We really felt like a second Holocaust, Shoah, is going to fall on our heads. We just rose from the ashes of the Holocaust, trying to build a home for the Jewish refugees who came from all over the world, and once again, we are going to be annihilated. Me and Granny, she said to me, dug trenches in front of our homes in the city of Rishon LeZion and Kfar Saba in the heart of Israel. Today we have so many shelters and secured solutions. Then it was filling bags of soil with your own hands. And she said to the little me, I was even more terrified than the others because I knew your father will be taken. I don't know if you know it, you guys, but in Israel, whenever a full-scale war falls on our heads, the majority of the fighting units are not the famous IDF, the enlisted regular army. This is indeed one of the toughest armies in the world, but they are not enough to open up the fronts against Syria and Jordan and Egypt. Whenever this happens, we summon the reservists. And this is a well-known notion in Israel. In the United States, 1% of your people are going to the army. In Israel, we are all engaged. Fathers, lawyers, rabbis, professors, students, fresh grooms, proud young fathers who have to make time and again this clique I'm looking for all my life. What derives a man, a civilian, a family member, a lover, to make this clique shifting from being a carpenter to a combat engineer specialist, like my father was of the 55th Brigade? And my mother said to me, after 2 horrible weeks of waiting, this knock came to our doorstep. We know this in Israel, the knock. And your father opens the door and he sees his friends. That reminds him that he is also part of the famous 55th Reconnaissance Brigade of the paratroopers, the Red Berets. War, Rami, come with us. And she said to the little me, everything was ready. Everything was packed in the corner of the living room. Your father for 2 weeks waited unwillingly for this inevitable knock on the door. And your father vanishes into the bedroom, and after 5 minutes he comes back. A metamorphose, I don't know how you call it in better words. Something changed. Your father is wearing the famous camouflage uniforms of the paratroopers. And my mother said to the little me, your father, I said to myself, she said, so naively, she said, who can harm this big, huge man? He looked like a semi-god, she said to me. Your father on the other side of the living room, I'm shaking by the doorstep, she said to the little me, like so many other mothers all through the ages in Israel. His friends are eager to leave for the next address. And your father is looking for you. I was out of the equation, you guys. I do not remember anything, but she said to me, he picked you up and he hugged you deeply. trying to stall every minute he didn't know it, from the last minutes with us. And then he started to sniff your head, she said to me, like he loved to do from whenever you were born. You guys, this is my habit. Whenever I see a baby's head, a gulp of air, this is holiness. The smell is unbelievable. This is what he used to do. So after a big, gulp from your head, he looks into your grandfather's eyes, walk towards him with you in his hands, begging, asking, commanding, please guard my son. He gave you to your grandfather and he wanted to leave. But then my mother said to me she did something that belonged to today, not to 59 years ago, you guys. Today, everything is selfies. You take photos of everything you see. Then it was not like this. I don't know what led my mother to do this, but she's ordering the scene to halt. She couldn't care less about anything, she said to me. I'm ordering your father, hold Alonchik. This is the way she called me till today, again. She rushes to the bedroom. She comes back with the useless, huge Canon RMA1 camera I have until today. And with shaking fingers, she's loading the film. She said to me, I'm loading the film. Hold Alonchik, click. One frame, one photo of a very powerful, impressive captain, paratrooper, with a clueless, helpless child in his hand, is leading me all my life. I have it here. I have it in my heart. I have it on my laptop, on my smartphone. What does it give me to share with you guys so many decades afterwards? So many, really, after such a long journey. If not the notion that we are all engaged, the notion that our fathers, our messengers who are going to harm's way have no other choice. And when my father left me, and when him and his friends started the Six-Day War, I know now, after asking all the tough, egoistic, naive questions I simply had to ask, that when he sniffed my head for the last time and left me for the sake of Israel and Jerusalem and his friends and the army, he was utterly convinced he's saving my life and the life of my mother and the life of my grandfather and the people of Israel. The geographical and mental distances, you guys, hardly exist in Israel. We are all engaged. You saw it at the beginning, the clip in the beginning. And yes, thank you. This is the last photo my mother took. For me, it's a father, a lover, a carpenter who doesn't want to leave his newborn son, but eventually make the ultimate sacrifice. And if you ask me today, after carrying the legacy of a very, very brave, powerful paratrooper, any given time, I would like to have back a carpenter and a modest father in my life. It will never be enough for me. But if you ask me, and I asked myself many times if I could forgive him for making such a choice, yes, I'm proud of him. I forgave him because I know that nobody else could replace him. We hate wars. But just try to understand, when my father left me, the motivation to save Israel was something so profound that within 6 days, you guys, the 6-day war lasted 6 days. There is no other nation in the modern era that within 6 days, shifting from the age of annihilation, exploded on 3 fronts, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, tripled the size of Israel, returned to the Temple Mount, to Western Wall, reunited Jerusalem, returned to Judea and Samaria. I believe you know. A prophecy that talks about it. They had no idea they are part of something bigger than themselves. They just wanted to come back home safely. And the story of the Battle of Ammunition Hill, this is nothing less than a miracle. Because indeed the paratroopers were supposed to jump with paratroops behind enemy lines in front of the Egyptian reserves and block the mighty Egyptian army. But when the 6-day war started, we initiated it because the government of Israel decided never again. We will never be butchered to helpless. And they launched a brilliant, amazing preemptive strike, sending the best of our 196 combat pilots very low over the Mediterranean towards Egypt and demolished all of the active airplanes of the Egyptian army on the ground. One of the most famous preemptive strikes that have been taught in armies all over the world. It was brilliant, it was amazing, but it couldn't be helped. Within 2.5 hours, we were engaged in a war, and the paratroopers, whom for 19 days were prepared to jump in Sinai Peninsula, They were told, hop on 135 buses, 2,000 paratroopers, rush to Jerusalem because the Jordanians are going to enter the Israeli side of Jerusalem, was divided ever since the independence war to two cities, and they will butcher the civilians. Nobody told them they're going to become part of history 2.5 days afterwards. Outnumbered, with no artillery support, with no intelligence at all, someone told them, you have a mission. There's a stronghold, highland, protecting Jerusalem from the north. Take this reach because this is the condition to prevent the Jordanians from storming into Jerusalem. Dead of night, 5th of June, 1967. Eventually, 2 platoons stormed into the maze of trenches. I'm talking about 17 acres. It's a huge stronghold with hundreds of meters of trenches and dozens of bunkers. They had no night goggles. They had no artillery supports. And you know why? Because they were told, listen, 59 years ago, it was not that accurate. Today, we can pinpoint a target like this in 5 kilometers. Then, Air Force said to them, wait for the morning. We cannot be accurate. This is Jerusalem. We can harm churches, mosques. We can harm civilians. Artillery was the same ordeal. The tanks said, we cannot be accurate. We are risking civilians. This is all through the ages the truth about the IDF. If they would have waited till the morning, maybe my father was alive, but they could have harmed civilians. The order was, do it on your own. The battalion will do it alone with his own support locally. And they stormed into Ammunition Hill, only to realize the best of the legionnaires of the Jordanian side were waiting for them. The famous El Hussein tribe. These people roamed Ammunition Hill for 19 years. They knew every centimeter, waiting for this assault that eventually came. 3 times more than they anticipated were waiting for them. In 4.5 hours, dead of night, 5th of June, 1967, my father boldly commanded the first assault and the penetration of the 4 minefields. When sun rose above Mount Scopus in the east, they realized, against all odds, they came out victorious. They sent the message, we did it. The hill, it's not Temple Mount, the hill is in our hands now. And because of their achievements, the government of Israel decided it was not easy to confront millions and millions of Muslims all over the world, to confront the United Nations, the Soviet Union, British, French, the whole world, and send 1 platoon commanding officer to blast open the Lion's Gate, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And this is, in a nutshell, the story of the 6-day war, Ammunition Hill. I urge you to come to Israel when sky will be open again to see in your own hands how did we choose to tell the story, to share the story. But you guys, you need to understand that 99% of the lives of my father and his friends, 99% of the lifespan, they were not soldiers. Only 1% of their lives, they were brave paratroopers, fighters. If you really want to know where does bravery and camaraderie and the leadership and commitment and sacrifice comes from, it does not come with the ranks and the uniforms, surely not in Israel. Something way much more profound was waiting for me to reveal. And this happened 2 days only after the war ended, when the 55th Brigade created the first march in front of the Temple Mount, Rock of the Dome. It was not allowed officially, but their Colonel Motagur decided we need to do it. And minus 100 of their friends were killed during the 2.5 days in Jerusalem. Minus hundreds of the friends severely wounded. The remainders of the 55th Brigade is standing in front of the Temple Mount, saluting, marching, being admired. But they did not feel completely okay with it. What started my life and the legacy of Ammunition Hill after the war was a spontaneous decision to make at the end of this parade. They realized the government, the nation, the army, the Minister of Defense was so preoccupied with the justified celebrations in front of the Western Wall. Thousands of Jewish people were dancing Hora all over the world, celebrations. But the families of their comrades in arms, whom they knew so well, 100 of them could not rejoice and be happy and dance. They were abandoned at this stage. And the friends of my father decided at the eve of this event to send a mission to the house of Dr. Jackie King, the admired doctor of the brigade, of the commanding officers, of the elderly guys of the brigade. And they came to his living room, making a promise that held water until today. We are not waiting for anybody else. We're not marching. Our families need us. And they made charts literally dividing Israel between themselves. And the following day, 10 a.m. in the morning, another knock on the door of my mother and father home. My father was gone for 2.5 weeks. My mother, a widow, fresh widow of the IDF, opens the door and she sees 10 salt of the earth, amazing paratroopers, now civilians once again. Nobody sent them. The instinct was to stay and be admired and be saluted and digest and return to their families. She knew them all because the 28th Battalion was a family on the edge of war of the 55th Brigade. The wives knew each other, the parents knew each other. These guys were friends. And the first question they posed to her, where is Alonchik? I do not once again remember anything. She told me they pointed at you saying to me in so many words, maybe Alonchik lost a father. Here 10 alternative uncles, friends. The title never meant to them. Alonchik will never step alone. Now this promise, this vow resonated the following 10 days all over Israel. They came to the Galilee, to the Negev. They came to the old cities, the new cities, the kibbutzes, the moshavs, finding families in a state of shock, mourning their beloved husbands and fathers, making a promise, you guys, that really held water until today, because I lost my father. I know exactly where and how. 56 meters from my air-conditioned office in a United Jerusalem. I know exactly what were the circumstances. But I've gained 10 idol figures who became fixtures in my life, who completed as pieces of the puzzle of my father the other 99% of his life. How was he? As a father, as a lover, as a husband, as a civilian, as a carpenter, as a sportsman, as a youth movement leader. I wanted to know so much about him because I wanted to forgive him, but I wanted to really to know what led him to leave me. And this amazing bunch of people, without being asked, some of them became high-ranking officers, parliament members. They kept on fighting on our behalf, guided me all through my life. And to them, I was privileged, I can say rude, to ask all the tough questions I had to ask. Didn't my father love me? Didn't you love your families? Why the hell did you kept on going to war? What does it mean, war? They explained to me in a way that I will understand. And these guys took me to my bar mitzvah at the age of 13. These guys took me to my army service. These guys pushed me to my chuppah night when I got married. These guys came to the hospital whenever my wife gave birth to another baby, never asking anything in return. But if you're talking about the real spirit of Israel, not of the IDF, the people of Israel, these are the guys, because once again, I want to acknowledge what you are doing. Whatever led them to be victorious at Ammunition Hill against all odds, all the big words, bravery, leadership, courage, commitment to your nation, to your friends, all these notions are the same ideas that led them over a sip of coffee at the house of Dr. Jackie King as civilians to knock on my doorstep and adopt me forever and adopt a whole generation of the orphans of the 6-Day War. Which means that bravery does not belong only to wartime, and leadership and courage does not belong only to the Jewish or to the Israeli people or to the tunnels of Gaza. It belongs to anybody that chooses to be part of a society, to use his resources and his time and his skills without holding any rifle in your hands or killing anybody. This is one heck of a message that I had no idea, but this became what we do at Ammunition Hill, inspiring kids, not only Jewish people. Now the world comes to understand who we are and what you stand for through our findings. Because I used to be the baby running in the trenches who became to be, evolved to become the lad and then the soldier and then the husband and the father and eventually the educator. I wanted to be part of this, but only decades afterwards, realizing what the friends of my father gave me to share with the world, I'm so willingly doing that all over the place. And the same statement I'm sharing with you guys, I can do with your grandsons and granddaughters that come to Jerusalem, regardless of the gender or the age or the faith, saying to them, tomorrow morning, you're being challenged by faith, God, Lord, your boss, your family, your community. Believe in yourself and you can make miracles. This is why we are relevant until today. This is why we are so successful. Now, another short layer, I still have time, Stephen.
Just before you leave that comment, I just want to bring into the conversation. A rabbi once said, and it's a very profound statement, this is pure and undefiled religion to look after the widow and the orphan. And
Oh, yes.
here is a succinct story for our listeners of the reality of what it means to carry a prior generation into the next generation. And that's the story of the Jewish people. It's a legacy. It's not merely I'm living for myself. I'm living for, and every century that's passed, the Jewish people have held on to the tenets of what make their society. And this stepping into that equation, I'm so glad you went there. We're talking about the 50th paratroopers now. They turned up to support your mother and to support you throughout, because I think this is a crucial lesson that this generation really needs to recover. We've got a situation where we've had fathers that have abdicated their responsibility, and through no choice of your father, in the sense of he would have been there for you had had his life not been taken. And yet these men stepped into that gap where there are children, and this is what EMUNAH does as well, is stepping into the gap where there are children who, through no fault of their own, are put in circumstances where the parents are no longer available to be involved in the story, and or they are working through things. And these paratroopers did a remarkable work, Alon, with you and with your mother, to the fact that not only did they carry you through to your bar mitzvah and to your wedding and to the birth of your daughters, but you are literally living the legacy of what your father did by being at Ammunition Hill. And having walked through those trenches myself, it is incredibly profound on the hills of Mount Scopus, and what it led to in the reunification of Jerusalem, which is simply prophetic. It's simply the Bible says, Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the full number of the Gentiles become in. And so there is this intrinsic tie with Jerusalem being reunited to the eternal purpose of God being unfolded. And so thank you for what you've shared. We've got 2 minutes before we have to close up. And I asked this question to you in our podcast last week on Israel Matters, but I want to re-ask it. I hope you pondered it a little bit. If your father could see your life's work today, from your service to your leadership at Ammunition Hill, what do you hope that he would say to you?
I cannot bring him from the dead, but I want his sacrifice to mean something, not only to the Israelis. And I think this is what we do at Ammunition Hill. And I really want to believe that he's proud of me, because to know that his sacrifice was not in vain, and I'm standing on his. I wish I could do something else with my life. My daughters, all 3 of them, were in the army. They are very feminine, but they felt obliged to do what I did and what my father did. But having the circumstances that we see nowadays, that there's so much hatred, seeing me making so many efforts. You guys, you should have heard me 15 years ago when I started my journey. I'm an Israeli boy. My English was not like this. I'm opening so many new scopes of or options to tell the story, and ending this talk now, this conversation, this webinar. Tomorrow morning, I'm going back to my office, and I will tell my friends and my associates, you guys, we should all be proud, because we have so many friends. We are not alone. Whenever we face war in Israel, we feel so much alone and abandoned, and so many lies and accusations. If I created a couple of messengers of goodwill, ambassadors of goodwill, I did something. And it's not only my father that means to me. One of my fathers, Kacha, Israel's ultimate cowboy who raises cattle in the Golan Heights, he passed away 4 years ago. And just before he left us to say hello to my father, he made me a gesture. In Israel, we call it a chapra on my back. He says, Alon, our legacy is in good hands. I'm proud of you. We can leave. So this is my statement. This is my life mission. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I'm coming to the United States. If you want me to speak to your communities, on November, I'm coming to take part in the JNF USA conference before and after. Stephen, if you can get some requests, I'll be more than willing to come and speak in churches, to communities. I'm bringing with me a brilliant, beautiful, rare photos of what I'm talking about, and it will be my pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alon. I'm absolutely sure your father would be so proud of you. Thank you so much for sharing his legacy and your legacy. Stephen's put the link to your website here in the chat. I'm sure everybody will want to click through and hear more of the story. There's a lot more to learn, so please visit alonwald.com.
And just to add, when you get there, it is in Hebrew principally. So you need to go up to the top left-hand corner and press the EN, and that'll help you for those that are not fluent in Hebrew. But Alon Wald is there, and his story and his legacy and Ammunition Hill. Also in the chat, we had a little bit more time together last week on the Israel Matters show, and he goes into some other details that he hasn't had the time to share here. So please encourage you to go and click over onto that.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. And please join us again. Our next live webinar is going to be on Tuesday, July 14th. We're going to have Rabbi Eli Michel from Israel 365 share about the beauty and the importance of Shabbat. He's recently written a really special book about that. So please join us for then. And in the meantime, check out the EMUNAH Angels YouTube page. And if you're not signed up yet to our email list where you get a 5 minutes of faith each Shabbat, and you get prayer points for praying for Israel and other updates about what's going on with EMUNAH, definitely reach out to us at ruth@worldemunah.org, and we'll make sure you join that email list. Thank you again, Alon, for sharing your story, and for everybody for joining. And until next time, shalom, shalom.